Does your playing sound something like this? If you answered yes to more than one of those, then you are probably struggling with a too tight embouchure. Let's explore why and what you can do to fix it. Hi everyone, my name is Tatiana. This is The Flute Practice, a space to inspire your flute practice and help you grow as a musician. This is hands down the most common problem that I see in my students. Very often students will come back after many years away from the instrument and they have a really clear idea in their minds how they want it to sound, and they tense up and try really hard to make it sound like that. To add to this, very often teachers in the past have taught you to do things like smile while you're playing, which there are no words for how frustrated that makes me. Sometimes you might just have a misconception about how sound is produced on the instrument. Either way, all of this leads to incredibly tight embouchures and a whole bunch of problems. Common symptoms for a tight embouchure: very sharp and airy sound, a lack of control, especially in the high registers, but also in the low register, a kind of harsh and shrill sound. You struggle to play things softly, and very often there's also a buzzing in the lips. But those aren't the only issues that a tight embouchure causes, and if that list was not enough to convince you how big of a problem this is, then this might. Flute playing can be boiled down to two basic things: air speed and air direction. I've done an extensive video where I really explain how all of this works in relationship to your flute playing. But the most important thing for us to know is that when we play higher on the flute, generally we want to angle the air a little bit higher, and as we play lower, we want to angle the air a bit more down. The air direction also affects the dynamics and the intonation and a whole bunch of other stuff. And the problem is when you are very tight in your embouchure like this, you greatly reduce your embouchure flexibility. And this means it becomes much more difficult to actually change that angle of the air. Tight embouchures cause so much trouble. Okay, but what can we do about this? Because there absolutely are things that we can do to help this and fix this. But I do have to start by saying that there are no quick fixes here. This is a process and it does take time and really careful work. The reasons for tightening your embouchure are usually very complex and multifaceted and cannot just be fixed by one simple little trick. But today I am going to share with you 4 of the tips that have really helped my students loosen up their embouchure. The first really important suggestion I have is start from the very beginning. If you have developed this habit, perhaps you carried this habit from when you first started playing, perhaps this habit has developed or formed over the short time that you have already been playing, perhaps you've been playing like this for a really long time. Either way, this is probably fairly entrenched in your playing, and just the thought of picking up your instrument is going to get you all tight already. So start from the very beginning. Imagine you are having your very first flute lesson and you're starting just with the head joint and training the embouchure completely fresh. And here's what you would do. So you take your head joint, you position your head joint in the place, you completely imagine that you're not playing the flute, you're just learning it for the first time, and you put the lips gently together, and we're just going to say a gentle, like a little popping poo, like that. So hold the flute there and just that's literally how you're going to start, just as relaxed as possible, completely undoing the sound and not trying to make a sound, but rather just trying to get that small separation of the lips. This will help train your lips to not overdo it when it comes to just producing a basic sound, and you will realize how little you actually need just to get a good sound on the flute. The other thing that can be really helpful, and again you could do this with just your head joint, very much recommended, but is to practice with puffing out your cheeks completely. Yes, I said it, puffing out your cheeks completely. Now this is a bit of a ridiculous exercise, but again, it shows your embouchure that it doesn't need any tension actually to get a sound. It just needs a little bit of muscle work to help control and refine the sound. Now when students start doing this exercise, generally they just get absolutely no sound, so that is okay. Keep with it, keep exploring it. The trick very often is just to start by puffing And then think about just dropping the jaw slightly and angling the air a little bit more down into the flute. So you start by puffing. And then you'll see I just dropped my jaw. So puff. I dropped. Have fun with this, explore this. Very often students in the beginning, they cannot get a sound at all. And then after a couple of weeks of doing this, they suddenly get a sound. And it's huge in terms of helping to loosen up that embouchure. Of course, we're not going to play like this full time, right? This is an exercise to help you loosen things up. So don't get ideas about playing like that permanently. It's also really important for you to understand the correct movement of the lips. So often when students are trying to get into that second register, they'll do that by tightening the corners back and away from each other. So it'll go like this, which is, as you can hear, very ineffective, and it doesn't really work. Instead, we want to do the exact opposite. We want to bring those lips forward, away from the front teeth. We want to bring those corners in towards each other, kind of like you're pouting or kissing a little bit. We want to close the opening of the lip and, of course, gently increase the speed of the air as well. So you can do this. You can just close the end of the flute like this nicely, find the sound, and now bring those corners in towards each other, pucker those lips forward, think about that lovely pout. And imagine that the inside edges of your lip, sort of these bits, I know, pulling weird facial expressions here, but these bits kind of become like a long straw or tube coming forward as you do this. This takes some practice and can be very difficult to do at first, but oh my word, if you can get this feeling, two things will happen. Firstly, you'll be like, that is so incredibly easy. It just feels so effortless. And two, you will finally tell your brain that it does not need all that tension in order to get beautiful singing high notes. The last really helpful thing that you can do to help release that embouchure is actually to release the jaw and the cheeks. Very often, it's tension here that prevents us from getting that beautiful, relaxed, open sound. A couple of ways that you can do this. You can just become aware of the muscles in your cheek as you play. You can also think about space between the back or even the front of the teeth, but just space between the teeth. Think of that hot potato or in the back of the mouth can also help to release the throat and that lovely embouchure. Or you could think of that kind of nice yawning open feeling in the mouth in general. Now my last little kind of bonus tip, I guess, for you guys here is don't try to get a good sound. Rather go for an open, free feeling. The sound will come, but if you're always trying to get a good sound rather than just releasing and opening up, you're never going to be able to change and break this old habit. So there you have it, my top tips for helping you release your embouchure. Comment down below which one of these worked for you. Perhaps your teacher has recommended a really great tip that has worked and helped you in the past. Please share them down below so that we can all learn from each other. If you do want to understand a little bit more about air, speed, and air direction, we actually have a course that helps you start this process from the very beginning. We start with the head joint and walk you through the process of building and creating a beautiful sound step by step. Click over here if you want to go and find out more about that course that might help you to really unlock your true beautiful sound. Remember, this is a process. As always, happy practicing, and I'll see you guys soon.